I believe that the pattern of taking on the supporting role in a man's life because you want to feel needed, or you want to feel like you have a purpose, or you see that he has wounds and you think, I'll love him. I'll take on some of the weight of his pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that
was modeled.
That was modeled.
Yeah.
And at some place, that's kind of where it was born for me, I think.
Yeah. And recognizing the pattern and doing these deep dives, I always say, you come to these points where, letting your story out like you did in your play and working on a book and all of that,
right.
it can feel like, I don't want to out somebody, or I'm not here to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And I definitely know that from your story already. But can you talk a little bit about what it feels like, when you hit those points where you're like, oh, am I going to upset somebody?
Yeah. Well, I'll share the story. Back in 2020, I had my spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul in 2014. So you asked me what happened 9 years ago, right?
9 years ago.
So for me, it manifested in severe low back pain. So I was a gymnast, a dancer. I, at the time, owned a fitness studio. Like, moving my body, working out was always what I did to handle any kind of stress or any kind of anything.
Another thing we have in common.
Yeah. Either that or drugs, but I had given that up. So, So in 2020, I knew that I was at a place in my life where I had come far in my healing journey. Like, I have a meditation practice, and I have meditated every single day pretty much for the last 9 years. But I got to a place where I knew that I needed to go to the next level in my healing journey. Mm-hmm. And I found a guy who we have a mutual connection with, and he, his work resonated with me so deeply. And I knew that I needed to work with him. And he talks about trauma. Like, he uses the word trauma. And I was having a conversation with my mom about wanting to work with him, and it triggered her, the fact that I used trauma, because I personally didn't have any big trauma in my childhood.
Right.
And my parents did a really incredible job. They were wonderful parents.
Yeah.
And, right?
They were carrying.
And things were carried and passed down. So I used the word trauma, and it really triggered her. And she got really upset and really hurt. And we got into, a bit of an argument. And she's like, I don't understand. Like, you had a great childhood. Like, what's traumatic about your childhood? And I felt so, invalidated. Yeah. And I said to her, Mom, at the time, this was 3 years ago, right? I'm this age, I've been divorced twice, okay, in my life. So I'm like, at the time I wasn't divorced yet, but I was getting ready to get divorced. Okay. So I was in a very unhappy marriage. Yeah. And I'm saying to my mom, I've been through this, I've been through that, I've been through, something has to help me make sense of this. So I'm not saying that I had traumatic childhood, right. But what I'm saying is that for my own, well-being, I need to understand and I need to heal. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Because otherwise I just carry shame around.
Right. And once you have that realization, and that's very similar to I started writing like crazy. I had always been a journaler, and then I realized during my marriage I kind of had fallen off, and I'd have thoughts, I'd work out, I'd have stories in my head, but I'd stopped writing. Yeah. And when you have that realization that you need to go deeper, whatever that creative process is, writing or acting or, anything that helps you go down the rabbit hole and figure out, because I remember having that feeling like, how did I get here? Yeah. And once you ask that question, it's really hard to turn back.
It is.
But I happen to think, that's almost what getting to midlife, people talk about the midlife crisis, you hit that point and you really do have a choice whether you're going to look at it. Yep. Or you're going to turn away from it. And when you turn away, the pain and the shame continue and they follow you. Totally. Versus, as hard as it is to uncover, it really is just continual breakthroughs, even though, we both know it can go like this, right?
Yeah.
It's not just this like upward trend. It's hard.
No, it's bumpy.
It's really hard.
It's bumpy.
But
I did mention so the alcohol thing, that's an important part of my story.
Yeah.
So I went to rehab when I was 19 for this drug addiction that I believe at the time, I was in this relationship that was totally out of alignment. I had become a version of myself that was, small, being cheated on, but not being able to leave. I mean, just, right?
Yeah.
A shame on top of shame on top of shame. And so alcohol and drugs, I think just helped me cope with the shame that I was in the situation and I couldn't leave for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So I went to rehab at 19. I got sober. They sent me to AA. And once I got a taste of being free from my addiction and feeling a sense of reconnection with my true self, I was like, I'm in, right? I was able to leave that relationship and I spent 12 years being sober. 11 of those years, active in the 12-step program. Okay. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, when I met my ex-husband, my second ex-husband, there's so much
relationships.
I know, but I had been sober for 12 years. And I had gotten a divorce from my first husband a year before that. And I was dating and I wasn't in the rooms of AA anymore because it wasn't really feeling resonant for me anymore.
Okay. Because you felt like you had progressed past it?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel authentic calling myself an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. It worked when I was there. I appreciated the sense of community that it gave me. And the 12 steps have beautiful, right? Offerings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just got to a place where I got sober when I was 19 and I had been saying this for so long. And I just was like, I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel like saying I'm Amber, I'm an alcoholic, or I wasn't resonating in the rooms anymore. I wasn't resonating. It just didn't feel like I was meant to be there anymore.
Okay.
But I was still sober.
Yeah.
For a period of time.
Okay.
And then I was dating, and most people drink alcohol.
Right.
Right? So you're going on dates, and people are drinking, and you're like, no, I don't drink. And if you don't have another, I don't like to use the word substitute, but kind of a substitute or a reason why you're not drinking, it's hard because you feel lonely.
Yeah.
And I had spent my entire life avoiding being alone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Be true to myself and be alone, or abandon myself and at least
I've got some people
with me. Right?
Yeah.
Never. How about both of them? How about be authentic and true to myself and be with people?
Yeah.
It didn't feel for whatever reason like I had that option to have both.
Yeah. Because for some reason at that point, what comes through to me is that you're not vibrating yet on the level of finding that community of where you could have both.
Right.
Right. And that's, I think, where we're all trying to get, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
And people talk about vibration, you're like, okay, well, some days my vibration is up here, right?
Yeah.
But then there are those days where it's not, and that's.
And I did not have a strong sense of myself.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah.
Now.
Absolutely.
If I met a man.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, come drink with me. I'd be like, no. It's not my jam.
Yeah.
But I had to go through that process.
Yeah.
So I started dating him and it was clear he wasn't going to stop drinking. And I thought, well, these are my choices. This is literally what I thought, right? These are my choices. I can start drinking again and stay in this relationship.
Yeah.
Or I can stay sober and be alone.
So it didn't feel like an option to be with him, let him drink, and you not.
No.
I get it.
No.
I get it.
It didn't. Yeah. Because he likes to drink.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was.
So today, what's your why for not drinking?
Because it dims my light.
Yeah.
And it unplugs me from the truth of who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally unplugs me. I am a light. Marianne Williamson talks about this, being the lamp. When I heard her talk about that, it made so much sense to me. Like, I'm the lamp, right? And I'm plugged into my source and I'm shining brightly. Yeah. So what are the things that cause me to be unplugged? And for me, I have found that drinking alcohol, I'm just unplugging my light. Yeah. So it's just not.
It resonates. Yeah. But you have to have, like you said, you have to know the why behind it.
Yeah, and I also had to, P.S., drink for 15 years and be in a marriage as my unplugged self.
Yeah.
To get to a place where it was so painful not being my plugged in, lit up, authentic self. And I think that's, for the people that listen to your podcast, they're on this journey.
Yeah.
Like, they're already on this journey. So they understand that language. They understand, like, we're on the path to be plugged in the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And we've experienced the pain of not being plugged in.
Yeah.
And we've experienced the fear of what will happen in our life and who will we have to lose if we plug back in.
Yeah.
And become the star and stop being the supporting role.
Right.
And I kept being the supporting role for a long time because I was terrified of getting a divorce. I was terrified of what that would do to my 2 young children.
It's awful.
Awful.
Yeah.
Right? But it became so painful. And then when I worked with the guy that we talked about earlier, something shifted in me. Yeah. And I gave up alcohol in February of 2020. And I got a divorce in June of 2020.